who doesn't love a good reboot? It seems like audiences everywhere are keen to check out at least some of these types of movies for a specific series in particular. Whether it's due in part to die-hard fans looking for a continuation of the series' events brought to a new generation, or a sense of nostalgia for people who grew up with a specific property, some of these films have done quite well financially and have remained crowd-pleasing successes, with the recent Top Gun sequel jumping to mind as a specific example of this. While these reboots and remakes might provide fans with a fun enough sense of nostalgia to carry their enjoyment across the finish line, it remains to be seen whether these movies are truly good in any sense of the word. As the saying goes within the film industry, a movie might be fun, but does that make it worthwhile entertainment? And when analyzing many of these reboot properties, the real answer is that, while there are a few exceptions to this rule, the majority of these movies answer to a resounding no in this regard. This is the reason why I always approach these films with a wary mindset, prepared to experience the nostalgic side of these properties, but always alert to see whether they are made for decently crafted cinematic experiences. And this is precisely the same mindset in which I entered the newest film in the Karate Kid saga, Karate Kid Legends, which is in theaters now. Now, I never had a fond attachment to the series as I grew up, and I had only watched the original film when I was quite a bit younger, which was before I really got into the film, so I hadn't even seen it through that lens recently. But like many like-minded lovers of pop culture out there, I knew enough about the original film to keep me intrigued about this new adaptation. You see, this film has a difficult job under its wheelhouse. It not only has to appeal to die-hard fans of the original property looking to see a continuation of the series in a major way, but it also has to appeal to fans of newer properties within this franchise, like the recent Netflix spin-off hit Cobra Kai. In this regard, it's almost as if Karate Kid Legends is balancing two different plates at once. It has to appeal to a sense of nostalgia while also remaining largely fresh and kinetic to appeal to those newer audience members as well. To say this is a difficult task is an understatement, and this is why I want to start off this review by saying no matter how lackluster the end product of Karate Kid Legends is, and trust me, I am not a fan of this movie in the slightest, it's at least admirable that the filmmakers behind the project try to appeal to both fan bases with ease. You see, Karate Kid Legends is an interesting reboot in how it attempts to combine the nostalgic sense of the series with the return of both Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio as their characters respectively, but also introduces a fresh new angle to the franchise as well, intercut with the soundtrack of essentially the top TikTok tracks underlying many of the training montage moments throughout. And while such a combination might seem admirable and unique on paper, in execution it just doesn't work out. And this is one of the many problems with Karate Kid Legends. The movie follows Kung Fu prodigy Li Fong, who moves with his mother to New York City from Beijing after she takes up a new job. Having to leave his familiar past behind while facing a brand new future, Li begins to befriend locals in the neighborhood, who face trouble from antagonistic forces to whom they owe a debt to. To pay off the debt, Li decides to enlist in a local karate competition, but he faces insurmountable competition and doesn't feel prepared. To fix this, he finds help in Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso, who began to train him to defeat the ultimate challenger and find a silver lining for his new friends and family within the city. And if you're listening to this plot synopsis and going, that sounds pretty similar to the original Karate Kid movie, it is. Straight up, which is one of the many problems with this film. The fact that something so derivative and formulaic is being touted as new is quite shocking, but it extends further than just this. The fact of the matter is that Karate Kid Legends is a reboot that doesn't actually do anything unique from its predecessors. The goal of this film seems to be focused on replicating key ideas and events from the original film in a way that broaches their execution through a 21st century specific lens. And while such a concept might seem notable or admirable, the execution here is far from perfect and then some. In just an hour and 34-minute runtime, there is little room for this film to breathe or experiment with such a derivative concept, which results in moments which seem plucked straight from the original film over their own individual execution. I mean, throughout the film, I felt at many key points that I had seen this film before, and yet I haven't seen the original Karate Kid in over 10 years. In addition, many of the new plot elements added to the mix, and there are quite a few, might seem to be unique additions to the story and overall plot, but they also feel incredibly formulaic and uninspired in concept and execution. You will be able to tell exactly where this film is heading well before events even transpire, and in this regard, the film loses so much of its magic touch. Nothing about this movie or its execution seems to be fresh or inspired in any way, shape, or form. Rather, it feels like a rehashing of old ideas and themes told through such a limited point of view. It's essentially taking old leftovers from a fridge and reheating them in a microwave while also splashing some Tabasco sauce on it for some flavor. Like, yeah, it might seem to have its own unique flavor, but this is just to mask it, because underneath all of the flashy 21st century glamour, it's still the same core idea. And in this regard, the conversation needs to be had about the 21st century elements added to the mix here and how they distract from the film overall as a result. In an hour and 34-minute movie, there is little time for a film to meander without seeming distracting or not needed to the plot overall. However, one of the problems with this film is how it seems intent on highlighting so much background noise and pointless high school drama within the first 30 minutes of the film over actual plot development or complex characterization. I didn't even feel like I was watching a Karate Kid reboot at times. I felt like I was watching a Disney Channel original movie. And to that point, one of the worst elements about some reboots is how they feel superficially shallow in execution and premise, almost as if you could remove specific elements from the original original IP from the overall plot and be left with largely the same movie. And unfortunately, this is clearly the case with this film. Remove a few character moments and characters from this, and perhaps one or two scenes scattered throughout, and this becomes a stock martial arts film with no sense of attachment or nostalgia to its source material. The film's plot becomes too convoluted for its own good as well, trying to stuff way too much material into too limited of a runtime, including an interesting angle in which the film explores boxing through the lens of martial arts that feels unnecessary and unneeded. And we have to touch on how blatantly distracting the soundtrack of the film is. While it's perfectly acceptable to place 21st century music inside of a film, this movie's soundtrack is almost used in a way that distracts from the main focus and makes us feel so stock and generic at key points throughout. Yet ultimately, many audiences might not be going to such a film for a complex plot or characterization. I'm sure the question on many audience members' minds is whether the film succeeds in delivering kinetic and vibrant karate sequences that remain memorable and impactful overall. And the answer is, kind of. You see, the choreography is clearly there in these moments. While the actual kung fu sequences might be scattered throughout the film in a jarring fashion, it's also abundantly clear that these moments were crafted with clear intent behind every action. Not to mention that the stunt work in these moments is beyond impressive across the board. However, no matter how great these moments might be throughout, the unfortunate truth of the matter is that the filmmaking here masks and hides the impact of these moments in such a devastating way. While slightly kinetic and frantic cinematography can be used in specific films to deliver a way for audiences to feel immersed into the action of a specific movie, there's also something to be said about how a film that over relies on such a concept or tool and ends up distracting from the overall point of these sequences can be executed in such a horrible way, which is what clearly happens with this film. The karate sequences here are filmed in such a nauseating and borderline unwatchable way. Camera shakes so much throughout, with no stable shots provided to orient the audience in these moments. And this is combined with some of the most jarring editing techniques I've ever seen in a film in the last calendar year alone. The way the film cuts on action, reorienting itself into a different viewpoint entirely right in the middle of these action moments, is incredibly jarring and distracting across the board. This results in moments where the impact of the actions are entirely lost, and where the audience is left scratching their heads wondering what the point of these moments are entirely. Yet, for everything that Karate Kid Legends might lose impact in, it's not a package without merit overall. Ben Wong plays Li Fong with such a charisma and charm, underlying the intensity needed to sell the action-packed karate sequences with a personal contemplation and reflection that fills so many key areas of the film. Sadie Stanley and Joshua Jackson play a father and daughter duo who are integral to the events of Lee's life in such a contemplative and reflective way, with so much charm in each interaction that underlies surprisingly poignant and affecting moments in their relationship. And, of course, Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio reprise their series roles with full charm, picking it up with ease and never feeling like they phone it in here in the process. If you're seeing the film for any specific reason, see it for Chan, Macchio, and Wang's performances alone. Yet ultimately, I cannot recommend Karate Kid Legends at the end of the day. While the film might have charm in certain aspects, and it attempts to at least instill a new sense of flair into the franchise's familiar plot beats, it seems more intent on rehashing old ideas over bringing anything inherently new to the table. Couple this with awkward writing and pacing, and some interesting editing choices to put it lightly, and you have a film that just feels off in every sense of the word. Now, I understand Karate Kid fans might be approaching this film with great intensity, as they hope to see the events of the franchise continue in a unique way. And while the film might not present anything new in this regard, it at least serves some variation of the same franchise formula as before, which might appeal to series diehards and regulars. However, for audience members looking for a unique spin on the franchise, this is not going to be the film for you. That's why I'm giving Karate Kid Legends a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this review on my channel. If you're new around here and you like the content you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and turn on push notifications. Also, leave comment suggestions down below for future video, essay, and review topics. With that being said, until next time, this is Mitchell signing off. Peace out.